Can you touch on the self-identity bit? Like after an ending of a long-term relationship with all the heartache and emotions running wild, what can be done? I would imagine that is a big part of starting to let go of the past as well.
Yeah, because really your past is connected to you no matter what. We don't sever our past. We're always holding hands with the past and the future. So, yeah,
Mm.
just let's be friends. Or maybe it's this was a great friendship or this was a relationship. I'm ready for a different relationship. We get
Right.
divorced in life, and sometimes it's hard to not have that person in your life. You're connected, you have kids, you shared a life, you shared property. So, by making an alliance with it, it works better than rejecting it.
Definitely. So, how do you make that alliance? Is there acceptance and grace involved in that?
Well, the way that I do it, there's probably many ways to do that. The way that I do it, I call it emotional alchemy. And I first look at that story and go through that process of that story. And then also ask the body, literally ask the body to release the emotions that are connected to the story because they're in there. That's how our emotional and physical bodies are intertwined. And so I have people literally thank it and ask it to leave. And then we come up with a movement pattern based on where those emotions were found in their body. And they'll do that. That's their homework. Move like this, journal on these prompts, drink your water, give yourself the frequencies. And every day, think about that new vision, that new you that you see operating from the story that is more true to you.
So, visualization is a big part of that.
Yes, visualization is important. And I call that part of this emotional management model crystallization. So we had the interruption, the categorize, priorder, alchemize, visualize, and crystallize. So now we're talking about this visualization and this crystallization because just because we ask a pattern to go, just because we are aware of it and we don't want it anymore, doesn't mean that tomorrow we're the new person. It's a process, but it really helps that we literally found it, made peace, called in a new vision. We're thinking about it, writing about it, moving it through our bodies. It's really an effective way for rapid transformation.
What pops up for me is before visualization, like before we can visualize the future and how we see ourselves in it, right? How do we establish that new self-identity? How do we figure out what's next?
That's a great question because we can create something in our mind and a vision from the thinking mind. The most important thing, however, would be the feeling part of us. So, what does that feel like? So, spending as much time as possible, and you need to connect the mind and the heart to be able to come to this place of, okay, here's the creation. Now I want to feel what it's like to be that version of me. That's far more potent than just thinking about it or writing about it. When you combine all of it, you really need to walk as this new avatar, act as this new avatar. And that's why it's so important to hold hands with the past and the future because there you are, right in the middle. And there's no time warping. You need to give the system a chance to catch up. And that's why I'm a huge fan of supporting the physical body while you're doing that.
Yes, so the body and mind alignment is definitely important. And, for me, getting out of a long-term relationship, I was a wife, I was a mom, I was a structural engineer. So for me, trying to think on what's next or how I want my life to look like was a whole process in itself. It was a lot of alignment, like you said, a lot of meditation, a lot of prayer. And yeah, I guess for your clients, what's the time gap for that? Does everybody get a different time frame? figuring that out?
Yeah. Well, the alchemy process I'm talking about, relationship resonance, it takes physically about 9 weeks to go through that. The thing about these shifts is that some shifts can happen immediately. It's like when you witness something, say it's a pattern or a story, sometimes just looking at it and saying, oh, there you are. Oh, that's not me anymore. Sometimes that can shift it immediately. And that's one of the reasons I'm also a fan of doing some guided medicine journeys with someone who is really compassionate and qualified to do that, because that is a powerful way to shift quickly. But we're talking about here, we're talking about not doing that. So I'm going to stick to just this process. So witnessing can sometimes shift it, sometimes just asking it to go, that can be the thing that shifts it. And more often than not, it is the daily habits that set us on a new trajectory. But once we start operating from a place of, for example, in this process, we move from, in the lower levels, from shame to self worth. So once we clear those emotions, become aware of them, ask them to go, and start journaling on that and walking in that avatar, that is a layer of you that is literally a new person. It's like when you peel the onion and you have a new fresh layer, you're like operating as this fresh person. But I think there's a pace that's important. You could go to a retreat and have some major shift, then you come home, you're on that airplane home, and you're like walking up, get your baggage claim, getting your bags, and you're like, oh boy, now I gotta walk in the front door, the back door of my house, and there I am in my same place. So it really is important as you have these shifts to start, once something that's not in alignment when it comes into your life, to say no to a person, to a habit, to a food, to things that don't vibrate with you anymore, which is what, to your point, self awareness.
Hmm.
But you have a new standard. And as your standards change, your relationships change, and then your outer world starts to reflect your inner world.